When you're creating an assessment, as Sharon showed you in the beginning, there are some great features you can add to the tool sidebar. Now, the accessibility features are always available regardless of whether you add them, so students are able to adjust the font size or the color of the screen, but there are some additional settings you can adjust in the setup. So after I create my assessment and I come to this setup page, I can include instructions at the top. Please note that as soon as students start the assessment, they won't be able to see these instructions anymore. That's why that add text is really important. You may want to include instructions in the add text at the beginning rather than here so students can come back to that information. As you come down, the assessment toolbar is the name for that gray bar that appears on the right-hand side while students are completing the assessment. Some features to be aware of. Students can flag questions for review. This means that students would be able to put a little flag next to the question to remind them to come back to that question and take a look at it. This is a great test taking trick for students if they need to come back, and it's something that I believe the online STAR test allows. So you may want to allow students to practice with that. Students can eliminate answer choices, allow students to cross off answers that they know are wrong. So if you check that, students can cross out answer choices and narrow their field as they work through the problem. Again, another great test taking strategy which you might want to enable for your students. For our math and science teachers, you have the students can use a calculator during the attempt. You can leave it off, great for my ELA teachers who probably don't have students doing too much math, or you can set it to a basic for function or a scientific calculator. So there are some great options here. And that's not to say that it's only limited to math or science, but I know those are my friends who use calculators quite a bit. So you do have that option. And again, it appears in that gray sidebar. Students can use a ruler during the attempt. You have a 15 centimeter and a 6-inch ruler that you can include inside of your test. Students can use a protractor during the attempt. So if you're having students doing some ankle work, you can turn that on as a yes. Students can highlight text is one that can be a little bit misleading. So this is slightly different from that test option of highlight text where students can actually draw on it or highlight hotspot. This would allow students to highlight text that you have typed in the question. So as I'm writing the question, if I want students to be able to highlight notes in there, maybe they're highlighting those key words that let them know what function they need to take or things like that, they have that option. Now, this does not apply if in my question, and remember, this is highlight text inside the question, um, this does not apply if I've inserted an image. So if I'm thinking about maybe my friends who do DBQs or FRQs, where students are looking at documents, if I insert an image of that document, students won't be able to highlight on that image. So if I want students to be able to highlight that text, I would need to type it in. And again, this isn't related to the question type. This is related to the question text that you type into that box at the top when you're doing the question. So if I want them to be able to highlight that text, I can click yes. And the final one is students can use a notepad. And this would give students almost like a little sticky note that they could pop open and take notes in. By enabling these and setting them to yes, students will have those options in that gray sidebar. These are great tools for students to practice their test taking strategies or to use for additional support that they may need in completing their test without having to go outside of Schoology. If you have any questions about the assessment toolbar, please feel free to reach out to your academic technology coach. If you're not sure who that is, please reach out to Sharon or myself, and we would be happy to help you figure it out. Thanks for joining us to talk about the assessment toolbar.